Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today, and we are bringing you something brand new. It's a new series we're calling Buy, Sell. We're going to talk about the options that you have as far as inflated players and who may be overperforming that you could potentially sell off for better assets. And we're going to talk about some players that you might want to buy. People who have underperformed so far according to their ADP and who you might be able to get at a bargain. But before we get into any of that, if you are new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your support. It helps me to continue to do what I love so that I can bring you content that you love. So, without any further ado, let's get into this week's Buy Sell. We start out in Atlanta, where I am off both running backs here, and there is potential to maybe move on from them and find other assets that could be more valuable. We'll start with Mike Davis. Someone might be interested in him just because of his consistency. He has finishes between RB 31 and 35, so, low-end flex plays in every single week. So at least he's been able to produce that. He's had a minimum of 63 yards, so the floor is decent. Now, clearly the upside isn't, as Cordero Patterson continues to eat into that workload and look like the former first-round pick that he is. On the other end of the spectrum, for Patterson, he is coming off a monster game against Washington with 3 touchdowns, and there's not going to be a better opportunity to sell him for what you could, potentially get than right now. So I say take advantage of that boom game, try to sell him off for something that is a little more bankable as far as volume is concerned. Right now, Patterson averaging just 12 touches a game, and he's doing it in a poor offense. I think if it's a Davis owner, you're trying to maybe add in Davis on top of another deal that you're making to potentially sweeten the pot. And if he's the one that puts it over the edge, you need to do that. When we look at the Falcons, once they get to the bye week and after, that schedule is absolutely brutal. So I want no part in it. If it's Patterson, if you can get a current, mid-tier wide receiver 2 or running back 2, I think you take that deal, no questions asked. The next guy on my list here is James Conner of Arizona. Now, I know we love the Arizona Cardinals offense. They are dynamic. They are going to consistently put up points. But James Conner is one of those guys where week to week, you don't know when to start him. You have no idea what his volume is going to be like. There may be some weeks, like the last 2, which were great for him, but there are going to be famine weeks as well. And so coming off of 2 straight performances where he vultured touchdowns, that's just not going to happen from week to week. And so we want to try to sell him for someone who's more reliable, that you can slide in there consistently on a weekly basis. Right now, he is the RB 24. So when we look at guys kind of in that tier, right now there's Chris Carson, his lack of touches last week notwithstanding. Darrell Henderson Jr. comes to mind as a great option. Miles Sanders even might be a better option to have on your rosters than James Conner. And then finally, if you can get someone like Leonard Fournette, who is definitely trending up and looks to be getting more touches in a dynamic offense, at least you keep that, right, by giving up a Cardinal. Those are people I'd rather have than James Conner. Next up, I have Los Angeles Charger Mike Williams. Now, I know it's never great to sell a player off of a bust game, right? He absolutely tanked it Monday night. However, he's still wide receiver 5 on the season, and if you can look at some of the players below him, DK Metcalf right now is wide receiver 12, Terry McLaurin is wide receiver 7, even someone like Nuke Hopkins all the way down at wide receiver 17. If I can get one of those guys for Mike Williams, I am making that trade 100 times out of 100. Now, don't get me wrong. Williams is still going to produce, but I'm going to bet on the talent and the overall body of work that we've seen from those guys as opposed to this small sample size here where Williams has been balling. My next guy is Marquis Brown, and this probably doesn't surprise any of you who may have seen my small he can't catch rants on a couple of my other videos. Now currently he is the wide receiver 13, making him a prime sell high candidate. The Baltimore Ravens, we know, are going to pound the rock. That is going to be the focal point of their offense, and while play action can certainly be done off of that with deep shots over the top, I just don't love Marquis Brown. When we think about the negatives here, not only are they going to run the ball, Rashad Bateman is coming back from injury soon, and did I mention this guy can't catch? So I think at this point is a prime opportunity to say, hey, can I go get someone like Amari Cooper, who is currently lower than him? Can I get one of the Tampa Bay wide receivers in either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? I like all three of those guys more than I do Marquis Brown, and they are all right now ranked lower than he is. Let's now move to my buys for week 5. And these are guys that have just underperformed or maybe just aren't quite producing to what we were hoping they would when the season began. But I fully believe as the season moves on, they are going to turn it around and rebound in a big way, and you can potentially take advantage of that. We start with a guy who has busted on us in 2 straight weeks, and that is CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, at this point for me, I may have to go to the grave with CeeDee Lamb. I may have to go down with the ship. And if that's the case, so be it. There is not going to be a better buy low opportunity this season than right now with CeeDee Lamb, and I think that we need to take advantage of that. He is going to produce one way, one time, or another. Is it this week? Don't ask me. Clearly, I don't know when CeeDee Lamb is going to go off, but he will. And when he does, it should be for your team and not against it. Next up for the Los Angeles Rams, we have Darrell Henderson Jr. Now, once again, this is an offense that I want to get as many pieces from as I possibly can. And in that instance, how about you give me the guy who has 100% of running back targets and rushes inside the 10 and 5 on his team. That's this guy. Now, when I look at what he's done coming off of injury, he's the workhorse back here. And then we look at what his matchups are the next 5 weeks. He's got the Seahawks, he's got the Giants, the Lions, the Texans, and the Titans. So he is about to go nuclear, and you're not going to have another opportunity to buy him once that starts happening. So this is the time to make a move for him, hopefully get him on your roster so that he can go off for you. Next up is another guy that I'm probably going to have to go down with the ship on, but I'm not worried about it. And that is Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons. Whoever has Calvin Ridley right now is probably sick of seeing 50 to 80 yards every week with a single touchdown on the season, especially from someone who spent a top 3, potentially top 2 pick on him. Now, I am pouncing on that opportunity to add this type of talent regardless of the lack of firepower that is in the Atlanta offense. They are going to be behind a lot. They are going to be throwing a lot. And I want a player who is getting 10 targets a game and still averaging 63 yards a game. I want that on my team. And that's what Calvin Ridley has provided thus far. Now, he's currently wide receiver 22. So if you can sell another, low end, even a mid-tier wide receiver 2 for him, you are taking that deal to the bank. Also, after week 6, when they have their bye, his matchups are solid almost the entire rest of the season. So patience is key for Calvin Ridley here. We move now to someone who hasn't played all season, potentially has just been sitting there marinating, and that is Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. Now, he's most likely going to return in week 6, and he's the one that could potentially help right the ship, which has been a disaster so far in the offense in New Orleans. He's a guy that can turn that around. Now, if the owner of Michael Thomas is someone who is 1-3 right now, potentially 0-4, maybe they need help and need to win right now. And maybe that's your opportunity to slide in and make a wide receiver 2 price type of a deal for Michael Thomas. I think he is worth that investment because the upside with him is a low end to a mid-tier wide receiver one. We've seen it before with quarterbacks like Teddy Bridgewater, and I don't think that Jameis Winston is any worse than him. So he's going to be able, most likely, to produce solid numbers, and I think the gamble is worth it there. My last two guys may look like hopes and dreams, but that's what we build our fantasy championship hopes off of. And so this starts with Dalvin Cook. Now, yeah, it's probably a long shot, but you have to at least take a shot and look for the opportunity. He was the consensus number 2 overall pick in drafts. He is sitting right now at RB 31. Not only has he already missed a game to injury, but he also had a bit of a dud last week against that ferocious Browns front 7. So there is no better time to take a shot at picking him up than now. At least put your feelers out and see what their owner is thinking. I am still okay paying a running back 1 price tag for him. If you can flip someone like James Robinson, who just had 2 giant games, or even Joe Mixon, if he ends up being healthy this week, that is a trade that I am no doubt doing. We're gonna round out this list today with Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. And guys, look, I get it. The Colts offense is bad. It's real bad. Carson Wentz right now is playing on half of an ankle, so that's not great either. I just don't care. Just like Cook, Taylor was a first-round pick. He is currently RB 20, so there still might be an opportunity here to buy low on him even after that big week last week where he finished as RB 10. He has a solid schedule moving forward, specifically the next 2 weeks. And the rest of the season, that doesn't look so bad either. So the playoffs, if you get there, 15 to 17, or weeks 18, where people who don't really know what they're doing, he's got great plus matchups in those weeks. So the return could be astronomical if you're able to get him at a mid RB2 type of range. If that is the case, you gotta pull the trigger on him immediately. I hope you enjoyed this new segment. If you are digging it, please drop that down below in the comments. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz. We'll see you next time.